Also, I just wanted to know, do we think it's possible that those horses were actually just in a No Doubt cover band? And that's what made them skanky? Like, were they skanking? Like, is that what's happening?
Oh, I still don't know how to skank.
In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Katherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddy.
And I'm Chris.
And we are the Anidorks. These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
What's the perspective of One Day Younger? Why is Tobias singing that song?
Because he gets the morph of himself from the day before he...
So his DNA that he's morphing is
one day younger than the last time he was human.
Oh, man, that's a good question. I mean,
when he gets his morphing power back? Like, is it maybe a song about new possibilities now that he's got the ability to be human again? And he's like, not only am I human, I'm a human who hasn't made the mistakes I went on to make. You know what I mean? I'm one day younger.
Well, but I think it has to be that, but maybe more with a twinge of like, if I could do it all again, would it really be so different? Like,
yeah.
Or because he found out that he's Bird Boy in his core.
Yeah.
He's no longer just boy. He's no longer just burb. He's something else. And so the fact that he has this like more like innocent version of himself as himself,
and not only that,
I think there's something there to pick
right.
at.
And he finds out that he's the reason he went where he went. Like he told himself to go to the construction site.
It's true.
He set it all in motion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so every time he morphs, he's living the promises of what could have been, but also knowing that he'd make the same decision again.
Do you know what? All of that is good, but I think we should also listen through when we do book 13. I think it's all recorded. So we will also get the...
Oh, I don't know that we had... I like this idea that we're going with, but what Eddy's saying is keep it light.
Keep it light.
No. I wonder if we had a better idea than what we remember.
I don't think we had.
I don't think we fleshed it out.
We were, yeah,
we just kept singing One Day Younger.
One day.
Yeah, there was
gonna
not
be
an
one
idea.
day.
I think we wrote all the lyrics, actually.
I did say something. I remember I added a bit to it.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know.
Something
is
we
like...
could rhyme One Day Younger with Taxxon hunger.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that, Chris.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't know why we would do that, but, we could do that. If we did everything we could, Chris, nothing would ever happen. Good. Words have meaning. Say what you see, Chris.
Can I tell you like a weird... I don't know if I can tell this. Now I have to because I said that, but like...
Well, do you want to record it?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
I read this fan fiction once, and just bear with me.
You read what?
I read a fan fiction once. I read a lot of fan fiction. It was
Twice.
It was an Avengers fan fiction. It was a Thor Loki fan fiction, which they're not blood related, and it's gods, so they're not really brothers. Like gods.
I don't even know why I'm interested in this.
The point is
if they're not brothers, what's the point?
The way you were talking. There's a fic I read that used this character that was introduced in Thor Ragnarok. Is his name Korg? I don't know. He's made out of rocks. And Taika Waititi voices him. And he just does this like, oh, man. Yeah, man. It's going to be fine, man. Like, that's like kind of how he talks. And like, there's this scene. So what's going on is like Thor and Loki are reconciling their relationship after the events of Thor Ragnarok. Mm-hmm. And Thor finds out that Loki is spreading a rumor that they're already dating and that Thor is not a very giving lover. And that's why everybody's been like mumbling and whispering under their breath when Thor walks by. And so he's like, Loki, what is going on? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I don't know. Everything's fine. And then Korg comes up to him. He's like, you got to be a giver, man. You got to be a giver. Can't just focus on what you want, man. You got to focus on what the other person wants. It's just like for some reason the way you were talking, it's just like.
It's how you imagined it. Yeah.
That's funny.
That's really funny. Chapter 5.
Go on.
We get an uneventful but very cute. I forgot the exclamation points. That's what an exclamation point sounds like. By the way, exclamation points taste green.
Well done.
We get an uneventful but very cute chapter at school the next day. Cassie is receiving... So, I disagree with how you... Cassie is receiving a lot of attention from other kids now that she is wearing her new outfit that Rachel bought for her, made her wear. Boys who have never looked twice at Cassie are now asking for her name. Do they ask her name?
They just get it wrong.
This is completely inaccurate.
This is wrong.
You know what?
Yeah.
I was very tired when I wrote it.
I love you too, bud. He says that Cassie does look great. Oh, wait. Who's he? Jake?
Yeah.
Jake walks past. He says that Cassie does look popcorn Miranda.
Great. But of course she does. She always looks great. He calls
Heart attack.
He tells Cassie to be safe in the drylands. And then, a crucial part that you missed, Marco goes over the top complimenting Cassie on her new outfit and reveals that Rachel paid him $2 to do so.
Yeah, it's true. Like,
Actually,
basically just...
for some reason was like not plot relevant. I remember reading that and going, not plot relevant, which isn't
Actually,
always,
here's the most impressive part of how wrong you are about them getting her name right or wrong. The first person says, hi, Rachel, and then goes, oh, and hi, Carla. But then another person says, hey, Rachel, how's it going? And Rachel says, fine, and says, Cassie, you've met Joanne, haven't you? And Cassie shrugs and says, hi, Joanne. And Joanne replies, hey, Kendra. She tells him her name, and he still gets it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And Rachel's like,
you
he definitely
italicized
gave
an
you...
emoji, you monster. Eddie is making...
What is this leaning
Eddie is putting
face?
emojis.
What is this leaning
Leave him in there.
face?
Leave him in there. Leave him in there. Leave him in there. They're in the text. You literally have to
This
leave
is no
them
longer a
now.
living document. You've killed it.
No, everything above this point, everything above this point
you
is
re-italicize
dead.
them. You re-italicize them right now.
You monster. You
Stop underlining
them. No, stop. I'm italicizing them for the record. Stop
Can we
it.
publish this with an edit history?
Oh, Eddie, stop. Eddie, you have to leave it. It got mentioned in the podcast. We edit this podcast. We control you. We control everything you do. We decide when you italicize. We decide when you eat bananas.
wow.
Those are the two things we can control.
I made them bold, but
Stop.
it didn't do anything.
Yeah. Okay. So
Put it back!
very seriously, put it back. How dare you? How dare you? This is
And
gonna
he's like,
become...
I'm being silenced. And we're like, we're trying to give you room to speak, actually. Anyway, basically the entirety of this chapter is Rachel trying to be like, see, the outfits I got you made you look cute and people like it. And Jake doesn't say anything about the outfit and Rachel loses her mind. And Jake smiles a slow smile and said, of course she looks great. She always does.
Now, how slow, if that smile were a sound, Miranda, how slow would it sound?
Oh my God. That's actually
I don't know
cool.
what slow sounds
I'm glad
like.
we're all on the
So it's sort of,
You make it
No,
sound
that works.
slow.
No, that works. That works. No, that answers the question.
I have a question also about Jake. If you'll
Is he single? No.
look
he's with
closely,
Cass.
Jake cruises down the hallway. My
That's
question
true.
Oh my God.
is Jake a motorcycle?
I think there's a lot of snapping and pointing and
Oh.
my man, and you know what I mean? Like,
No, this is Call Me By Your Morph. I think it's that kind of cruising.
Oh, that's a morph?
Morph Me By Your Name.
I've never seen that
No, let's
movie.
try it.
What is he morphed into? A cruiser?
Morph Me.
A likable guy.
A likable guy.
Okay, so we think
also
it's a
Marco-
confident stepping.
Yeah. I think he's leaning back, but chest out, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Leaning back, but chest.
Yeah. Chest first.
So,
he's Naruto running.
He's not. Well, save that for when we get to Zone 91, because that's what I want to talk about.
Are we on to chapter 6? Is that?
On to chapter 6.
Cassie, Rachel.
That was the shortest chapter in history, and it still was 15 minutes.
Cassie, Rachel, Tobias, and Marco meet in Cassie's barn for their scouting mission. They'll morph into birds of prey to travel to the dry popcorn, Chris.
Lands. Tobias is keeping popcorn, Miranda.
Cassie's mom just went inside the house with groceries, and her dad is about 5 minutes away in his pickup truck. They're good to go. The gang morphs and leaves for the dry lands.
This chapter is like a classic morphing chapter.
It is, and I was so happy to see like
top to bottom.
a Cassie perspective morph for the first time in a while, because she's still so excited about it.
Well, and something... Keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to
just
cut you
that,
off.
like, she says, morphing is still exciting to me. I've done it dozens and dozens of times, but each time I realize how lucky I am to have the power.
It's worth remembering she's like an honorary estrine, like an artful morpher. And the other thing that I think is interesting about this book, and also like you said, just like seeing it through Cassie's perspective, I'm wondering if the generosity of the characters in this book writ large is actually afforded through her gaze because she's so thoughtful. So she sees Jake as doing thoughtful things. She's the one reporting this. And Tobias, who's a trauma kitten, as Eddy sometimes puts it. And
sounds like
also,
a sex thing.
And also a very... is the word shrewd and observant, like kind of a sharp personality.
Yeah.
He that was very, we're gonna leave that in. We're gonna cut me saying that was very funny because I think we can keep it in, whatever. I don't fucking know. It was really, really funny. It's an audio
It's like
medium.
a rope bunny.
Yeah, it's like a rope bunny.
Trauma kitten.
What's a rope bunny?
Oh my
What the
God,
fuck
Eddy,
do you
Google it
think a
on your
rope bunny
own
is?
fucking time. Don't do it now. Don't do it now. Our mothers are listening. Our mothers are listening.
You're just getting Lola Bunny in bondage, but that's not all that it means.
There's there's lots of pictures, and there's a Quora question. What's the difference between rope bottom and rope bunny? The AI overview
we'll leave
says
that for another podcast.
A rope bunny is a person who likes to be tied up during sex, ... parenthetical, they enjoy having, period, sex and hopping around to the next person with experience, and parenthetical.
We have to hop.
Okay.
We're bunnies. They have to hop.
All right, moving on.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say though was like the generosity that Cassie affords Jake in being so thoughtful towards his father. Also sort of like Marco seeming more human. And I know I'm sort of lending a lot of like literary weight to this that I don't think is there. Like, but I'm not saying like the author's
narrative.
But I think the narrative
something.
lens is possibly why Marco was so excruciating last book, is because like Tobias is on edge about those sorts of jokes. Sees like Marco as a
less than human,
antithetical. Or the other way around. Marco sees Tobias as less than human, so Tobias is like not.
Or at least that's how Tobias feels.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so when Marco's making these jokes that may seem light to like people who don't understand the adversity.
But last book he was also just
dynamic
super sexist. And like, I don't feel like
but
Tobias
he's also talking
made
about
that
Rachel.
Oh, that's
Wasn't
true.
he
He says
like, so
sexist things about Rachel, so Tobias is more sensitive to those because he has feelings for Rachel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't like it's my theory is just it's not a real theory. I don't think this is true, but I'm just saying it aligns kind of that it's like Tobias would not be so generous in hearing Marco in particular, and Cassie, who is very sensitive, has already demonstrated being very generous to the other character. She brings the good vibes.
Yeah. So we
she
get
brings the best out of people.
a bird morph. It's a good morph. It feels good. It reads well.
We get intestine shrinking. We get heartbeat increasing.
Yes,
Yeah.
love.
It's
She
gross.
knows things.
Movement. It's gross.
She knows things
Yeah.
about animals, so she shares facts. It's so cool. She talks about her bones becoming lighter and air-filled, hollow, you know? It's good stuff.
And I think, so Chris, you were pointing out that Cassie is despite being 14 books into the series, Cassie is still very appreciative of her morphing powers. Tobias got his morphing powers back last book. He morphed, not super appreciative. So as the committee
He
who
morphed
decides...
in a very life or death situation. He had to emergency morph a raccoon. Like,
I'm just saying maybe we should take Tobias's morphing powers back until he can appreciate
Until
them.
he learns,
them,
you know
yeah.
what? Yeah,
Morphing is a
but
privilege,
Who
bud. Not
decides
right.
these things?
as the committee, as the other Ellimists in the room,
I'm just a little disappointed.
Yeah, let's address the Ellimists in the room and take away Tobias's morphing.
So they go flying.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I could finish a sentence without a 45-second fucking pause in the middle of it. I feel so.
You're
I
growing
feel
up, Chris.
so
You'll
old.
get there.
Shut up. I'm peaked. I'm rolling down
They
the
go
hill.
flying.
I'm not running up that hill. I'm rolling down it.
Does this put us in chapter 7?
Chapter 7, yeah, they take off. They're going to make it before Cassie's dad sees a random bunch of birds of prey with
They're
his
going to
bird.
make a cake before
Burn.
Cassie's dad
His burn.
sees his bird. You remember when they fucked up Cassie's dad's truck?
Yes.
When they stole
Marco
Cassie's dad's
crashed
truck?
it.
Yeah, that didn't come up
And
at all in this book.
no, it did. They made one like offhand remark, and it's the only thing that's ever been mentioned about Megamorphs is that her dad had to buy a new truck, and he thought
Maybe that's why the truck has a CD player. He was like, well, let's get all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say is, did we talk about this? I am so sorry to be bringing this up now, but at the beginning of the book, there's a tiny little snippet, and I made a note about this, and I don't know how I lost track of that note, but she's outlining what she's morphed into. Zero mention of morphing Rachel.
that's true.
Zero
She doesn't
mention.
bring
She
it
doesn't
up.
like
Just
the,
like
she would never
She
abuse
does say
that.
she's morphed over a dozen animals.
Okay, bud. All right, bud. Yeah, okay, I see what you're getting at. All right. Chapter 7. Oh, I'm sorry. They fly off to the dry lands after a wonderful morphing
Well, here's the
sequence.
thing. They fly out of the barn. And then the next chapter we get is chapter 7. Cassie, Rachel, Marco, and Tobias approach Zone 91. Marco is going on and on about the Zone 91 conspiracy, about how the U.S. government definitely has aliens, or at least alien tech, hidden in the base. Rachel points out that the group of them already knows the real
Wait,
alien
like all the way at the base,
conspiracy.
though?
Like root
it's
to
all the
tip?
way-
Like,
root to tip?
yeah. Upon arriving at Zone 91, Popcorn Eddy,
The four of them spot horses wandering across Zone 91 without a care in the world. Nothing too suspicious. Tobias, Popcorn Chris.
Who?
Tobias, Popcorn Chris.
I'm so sorry.
Tobias, Popcorn Chris.
Points out that the other three need to demorph. Here, can you highlight that for our listeners when they get it?
how did you do that?
You can click and drag.
Because Chris is very old. T-Obes.
TMs points out that the other three need to demorph as they've been morphed for almost 2 hours, and Tobias knows all about that.
Okay. Tobias, Popcorn Chris.
No, they decide to land. I'm fucking nailing it. They decided to land behind some rocks. They were like, "This will be fine, Popcorn Eddy."
It's only after they land that Cassie notes that they're beyond the fences marking Zone 91. They're trespassing. What?
I have to
what
say.
Could
I have
go?
to say.
What
I have to.
could
What
go?
could go
wrong?
wrong?
What I have to say is, you didn't mention the fact that the whole first portion of this chapter, which is one of the longer chapters in a minute, is all flying.
It's
porn.
100% flying.
It's
yeah.
100%
I knew we'd
flying
hit
porn.
that. I was trying to hit the plot important stuff.
The important part is the flying porn.
Anyway, they do fly a lot, and during the flying, I mean, they talk about shifting from thermal to thermal. It's cruising. It's easy. Rachel's screaming about how much she loves it.
Miranda, chill. Jesus
She
Christ.
is.
She is. It's true. It's true.
And they talk about how good their vision is. They talk about the fact that geese are like power flyers, that they just like pump and keep going. I don't like how this is coming out. I don't like how this is happening.
Christ, dude.
This is not my intention.
Miranda. Can we talk about the Zone 91 sign?
Yeah, it's a good sign.
In my friend group, there's a storied sign called about a danger dam. And I don't remember how that story goes, but if anybody listens to this podcast who remembers that story, you can write it and let us know. But the point is, this sign has big danger dam energy. It's stop. Government property. Restricted area. Authorized personnel only beyond this point. All others are subject to arrest and prosecution. This means you. And in the book, it's all caps.
It is.
It's just, Eddy is making art out of this notes document. I love this. I love your font choices. I love your life choices.
Finish your story.
That's the end of the story. I just think this time was cool. I thought it was like cool. I don't know. They're trying to give us a vibe of like where we're about to be Naruto running into. I'm trying to spoil Miranda's joke as much as I can. Miranda's editing this episode. So she can cut that all out. But I just like that sets the tone of the zone that we're running into.
It's a good zone. It's a good tone. But Rachel and Marco have a little back and forth about whether or not aliens exist, which is like, Rachel's like, obviously we know about the aliens that do exist. And she says, Marco, just how dumb are you? We know about the real aliens. We know they don't look like E.T. or the guys you always see on alien books. What are alien books? And we know the real aliens, the Yeerks, don't go around kidnapping backwoods goobers and doing medical experiments on them. But we as the readers do know about the Skrit-Na, which kind of are little gray bug-like aliens or like tall gray bug-like aliens that do kidnap people for medical experiments.
And they do steal stuff from Earth. And so I think there's a huge chance that Crazy Helen was interacting with the Skrit-Na.
Right. And my question is, why has Axe still not mentioned this to them?
Still Ciro's kindness thing.
I guess it hasn't come up, but like he's digested, he got this like encyclopedia and all these things, and he was like absorbing all this culture in book 8 when he was like running around the woods reading, you know what I mean?
And he should have seen alien abductions.
And so like, why has he not been like, hey guys, maybe they were talking about the Skrit-Na, this race of people that
this is classic Skrit-Na,
do abduct people for weird medical experiments and then sometimes put them back. Like,
yeah.
It's also interesting. How did we get on this topic?
They talk about it while they're flying there.
Right. And with all the conspiracies, because one of the things that comes up is like how Marco's talking about these conspiracies and someone's like, oh, like Earth is so important. I forget exactly what the line is, but it's like we're the McDonald's on the side of the road.
Yeah,
of the
Marco,
of the galactic highway.
Right after Marco, or right after Rachel is like, we know about the real aliens, Marco's like, maybe there are two different bunches of aliens, and these ones crash landed back in the 50s. And she's like, yeah, right, Agent Mulder. Earth is the crossroads of every passing alien. We're the McDonald's next to the highway of the galaxy.
To which I say, kind of seems like it.
Does feel a little bit like it.
Like, especially from our perspective, having read the Andalite Chronicles and like all this other stuff, it's like there's a lot of alien activity on Earth. Just like,
so far we just really know about the Skrit-Na and the Yeerks.
Oh, the Skrit and the Na.
Anyway,
the Chi.
Well, but the Pimalites. Yeah, okay, you're right. The Pimalites. That was a long time ago, but it did happen.
They built the fucking pyramids.
The Chi did build the pyramids. They were happy.
They never get credit.
They achieved great things. They Pimalited great things.
I also want to jump in here while we're talking about
this. Truly,
flying porn.
Did you just popcorn your own thought?
No, he said flying porn.
Oh.
We get some nice details. Cassie, as she's taking off from the barn, notices that her stuff, Chris, she sees a frisbee.
Eddie's drunk.
She sees a frisbee.
This is devolving into a disaster.
Sorry.
They're fighting in the document.
I won't do anything more. I'm sorry. Cassie, as she's taking...
Eddie's mad.
I'm not mad. As Cassie is taking off, she sees her frisbee on the roof of her house, and she sees through the window her mom relaxing after work. And I just thought those were nice little details.
Very nice.
These are really
very
nice little moments.
Thank you.
That was back in chapter 6?
No, that was chapter 7.
Oh, okay.
Who's drunk?
Sorry. Whoa. You want dish it? You want
Also, Cassie continues to say good grief throughout this book.
She is a little Charlie Brown.
Is it her new line? She hasn't said that before, right?
I don't know.
Grief.
You want to annotate
Good
it?
grief. You could try. It's kind of broken. I need to fix it.
And I also just want to, with this whole flying porn section, Tobias is still excited about flying. Cassie observes that.
Yeah.
Which, like we were just talking about, there's a lot of... Cassie's still excited about morphing. And I just feel like this book, especially after Tobias's more like his bleaker book, book 13, I feel like there's a lot of joy in this book. Which was also true in book 4 with Cassie with the dolphins. So
it's also fun when like a friend suggests something that they're really into and you get to go do it with them.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, yeah, that's just nice, you know? It's like, oh, I would have never gone.
Also, he knows what a skanky horse looks like.
yes.
He does.
You can tell
He knows
that
a
horse's
skanky horse
sexual
when he sees
history
it.
from 3 miles up in the air.
Yeah.
Jesus.
But Cassie knows that the first horses that they see aren't them because they're behaving like normal horses. So they're like, we need to go deeper. Like we need to figure it out.
This is earnestly in the book where the X-Files references really start, right?
Well,
like, was there
yeah,
an X-Files?
they got mentioned back in
Crazy
Crazy Helen's.
So this is when our characters start like talking about him the whole time.
Yeah.
though, right? Yeah. And it really starts to pick up because it becomes a plot point in a bit. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Crazy Helen gets...
Chapter 7
bring
as
up-
well. She calls him Agent Mulder during that McDonald's of Off the Highway of the Galaxy line.
Yeah. And Crazy Helen gets another mention. We're keeping her throughout this, like, we're just taking her with us into the present
Yeah,
of
she's
the
like,
book.
Marco, I know someone you'd love. She's crazy like you. Also, I just wanted to know, do we think it's possible that those horses were actually just in a No Doubt cover band? And that's what made them skanky. Like, were they skanking? Like, is that what's happening?
Oh, I still don't know how to skank. You're right. I think ska was big at the time.
Yeah,
I bet you
it's a possibility.
that's it, Miranda. That's really good. Yeah. He's maybe, you know what he does? He probably
who
does
listens
run
to
into
ska?
spider webs a lot.
Who could we trust if they said
Tobias.
skank? Do you think it's Tobias? I feel like
If
Marco
any of
has
them
his
would
ska.
be into ska, it does sort of
Yeah,
feel like
Marco would be.
Marco, yeah, but I could see Tobias getting like real deep into music, like on his long cross-country trips from uncle to aunt or whatever.
Marco's experience with ska begins and ends with the Superman track from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and he loves it, but he's never explored further.
Yeah, that's right, because he's like a big Alanis Morissette fan and stuff, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
That tells you
right,
everything
yeah.
you need to know about
Yeah.
Marco.
It's like rain on your wedding day. So, chapter 8. Eddie, take it away.
Cassie, Marco, and Rachel demorph behind the pile of rocks.
Tobias is also there.
But he doesn't demorph because he's...
It would be morphing for him. Yeah.
They're tired, and Cassie's in no hurry to morph again. They pass the time. Tobias and Marco flirt a bit. Suddenly, they hear a series of clicks, the sound of guns being cocked. They realize they're surrounded by soldiers. The soldiers, Popcorn Miranda,
Order Cassie, Rachel, and Marco on the ground while Tobias flies away. The 3 of them are searched and told they'll be taken into custody. A lieutenant orders the 3 kids to put their shoes, Popcorn Chris,
On before learning that they have no shoes. How sad that these children are unshod. Strange, he says. How did these kids make it through the desert of broken glass without shoes?
That's what they've been doing. That's why they don't need a fence. It's just strewn with broken glass. And unfortunately, the horse hooves can just walk right over it.
yeah.
Crunch, crunch, crunch.
Oh man, they're so screwed, dude.
It's like
they literally flew. I can't even believe that they are like, and also way back to book 4, which is really where we get the first big gun moment.
It's always Cassie
where
and
they're being
guns.
shot at. It's always Cassie and guns. Yeah, and I mean, there's other instances of guns in the series with other characters, but something about the guns are always like around, like in these books. I don't know what it is, but there's something.
It really is like immediate, like less than a full page before suddenly they're being surrounded by men with rifles. Like,
And
they're
Tobias
like-
is there, and he has one job. One job.
Go for the eyes.
Well, okay, he has 2 jobs. He's also supposed to be their
Sorry. I really thought that's what you meant. What was the job you meant?
lookout. Eyes in the sky.
Oh, you're totally right. You're totally
But
right.
do you know what he's doing? He's protecting Marco's butt. He's worried about the snakes.
That's true. He's keeping an eye
Priorities.
on snakes.
Yeah.
Snakes near butts.
Oh yeah, the whole
Nothing to see
snake
here.
thing. Like, how does that even happen? Like, someone actually throws a snake at somebody else?
No, that happened last book. Cassie threw a garden snake.
I think
snake
it happens
at
again
Marco.
in this book.
No, in this book he sits on one.
I don't think
And-
he actually sits on one, though.
Yeah, Marco's like, Tobias, go rustle us up some juicy rats and toads. And Marco, fucking shit.
I didn't know Marco ate
Tobias
rats and
says,
toads.
no need, just eat that snake you're sitting on. And Marco loses it, and a small black snake slithers away
Oh, there
from a
is
pocket
really
of
a
warm
snake
sand where Marco had been sitting. And he goes, I'm bit, I'm gonna die, a rattler bit my butt. And
then Tobias says,
quit breaking my butt. No, he says it's...
"Hey, Acty,
says,
Rewind the play."
I will
He says
protect
it's not a
your-
rattler and he didn't bite you.
But then,
I will protect your butt from snake bite, Marco. Tobias said solemnly.
See, I don't feel like that's flirting. I feel like that's a duty he feels. Well, do you think it's like an old married couple flirting? Like, I guess I've agreed to take on this responsibility. Like,
I think that's as close to Tobias saying "dad ass" as we'll ever get.
Yeah, I think the solemnly, it's tough to solemnly flirt.
You guys are in steadfast relationships, so I would take it upon myself to go out into the world and solemnly flirt.
We could solemnly flirt with our partners.
that's true. It's not fun.
I could?
No.
That would be weird, dude. I don't think anyone would like
How
that.
would we know, Chris, until you try?
But hang on. Because I didn't notice this on my first read. Rachel immediately is like, we don't need to rest, let's just morph back. And Cassie, for no particular reason, she doesn't say she's particularly tired. She's just like, there's no rush. It's easier to wait a little bit before you morph. And she, like, correctly calls the situation that if they had decided to morph, they'd have been caught morphing.
She does say morphing is tiring, it wears you out. Sometimes we've had to morph very quickly with no rest between shape changes, but that's not the best way to do it. You feel much more energized if you wait a little while.
Yeah, like I said, she gives a reason, but like there's also no reason not to. It's not like she says like we needed to rest or anything like that.
That one, like, doesn't leap out at me as much.
You're right, though, Miranda.
You are right. Like, it's just interesting because it's like the other thing about the other Ellimist interventions is they're all like kind of like heavy-handed plot moments. So it's like, I think it's like made me paranoid. Like anytime something happens for reasons, I'm like, ugh. But also it's true.
But if they had done
Like-
what Rachel said, they'd have been caught morphing. And Cassie's
It's
like,
true.
we don't need to hurry. Like she's
getting
just
a
got a
feeling.
sense that yeah.
She's getting a feeling. She has an intuition.
But-
she's tapped in.
I will say, I would think after the beginning of this book, even if Crazy Helen was wrong about the whole exploding rocks thing, it's interesting that without any care in the world, they just land among this pile of rocks. I know that they need cover, but
It's true.
those
It's
rocks
true.
did
It's true.
explode earlier in the...
That's true.
It's true.
But
No,
they
that's a
got
really
shot
good
by
point.
Dracon beams as far as they're concerned.
Yes.
But Crazy Helen
hard.
did warn them about the rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I don't know, this whole book is like, this whole next sequence in particular, and we'll move through it kind of quick, I guess. These military people have their guns fucking pointed at them and they immediately become irreverent, like, non-respecting of authority teens, which like, or like, you know, whatever, not teens, but, or
Yeah,
maybe
Rachel
technically
pulls
teens,
pretty white girl privilege and is like, but we're not doing anything. Like, it's like you have illegally entered a government facility. Like,
I call my dad.
Yeah,
He's a
and-
weatherman.
but- yeah.
he controls the weather.
Oh my God, that's so funny. But yeah, no, she's like remarkably unflustered. And I know that like they've all been so traumatized that like it's probably like hard to weigh the magnitude of like what's going on in this exact moment. But like for whatever reason, this feels more heavily loaded than a lot of other scenes in the book. Like in Megamorphs, when the Visser is like pointing the Valik at Marco and someone else and they jump out of that spaceship or whatever, like I know there are Draken beams and I know someone could like just be erased in a moment, but like something about this just feels like
well, guns are real.
Guns are real.
The level of like the what's it called, the escalation here, like there's patterns of escalation you're supposed to follow in a situation like this, and like immediately pointing and taking the safeties off your weapons at a bunch of small children of your automatic rifles is not like what I would expect our military to be trained to do. I'm not saying it's not what I expect them to do, but it's not what I expect them to be trained to do. They would try to hopefully de-escalate the situation.
I have no knowledge about that. I just mean to say, like, this is scary. Like, this feels lethal.
I wonder how it would present on one, like if the TV show or like a movie actually cast age appropriate actors as the children. Like if we were seeing this visual actually played out, like I wonder how loud it would be, because it reads loud, imagining the military surrounding these children. Like, but I feel like even if I imagine,
and it feels like from above. Yeah, they're like above them, pointing straight at their heads.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I wonder if, like, even imagining the Nickelodeon TV show that we've started watching, like, I feel like it would play different because it's adults playing the kids. It's like, But reading the book, these are children being surrounded by, and they're barefoot and they're in morphing tights and like running tights and bike shorts. Like, it's just, it's like, they feel very vulnerable. Yeah.
But when questioned about their shoes, Marco has an immediate answer to his question. It was the Martians, Lieutenant. We were dropped here by aliens.
A very bold gambit. It's
a strong pivot.
Yeah. Marco, what are you doing here, bud? And this whole next chapter, chapter 9, is a big Marco, what are you doing here, bud? And there's some next level Marcoing in chapter 9 that I really want to get to.
I do love
I'm ready.
The attention to the shoes, though. Like, I feel like we have not always been able to have that kind of faith in these books that just kind of move fast and loose, that they would pay attention to a rule that's been established, like their shoes don't go with them, and also that someone else might notice them. And it feels really good to have the books bring that into rotation. Like, that matters now that their shoes didn't go with. Like
this, I agree 100%. Just since the books have been leveling up in little bits this entire time, but like something is hitting really hard about this book, which is essentially a farce of sorts. It's
it's a comedy of errors. in a way.
But at the same time, it's like still entrenched in all the progress we've made, and the storytelling is like even better than the first 6 books in my opinion. And I don't mean to say that the first 6 books aren't excellent. It's just that there's a lot more work that has to be done to establish this stuff, and now we're just we're lolling in the hay with Marco and Jake.
Good podcast.
Which is the name of our next podcast.
I wonder why they didn't bring Axe, who's basically their bag of holding, because doesn't he have a shoe bladder? Isn't that what we've established?
I know exactly why they didn't bring Axe, because then they all would have seen it.
That is an incredible point. That is why.
And they would have asked him how to use the toilet. And we'll explain that later in the
everything.
book. Yeah.
I wonder if there's a plot reason why they didn't bring Jake, but it does feel like it's at least part because they couldn't just exclude Axe and have it make plot sense.
It just starts to get too many. There's just a few too many people. Like, anyway.
Moving on.
So,
chapter 9.
Yeah, we have 3 more chapters left.
Chapter 9. Cassie, Rachel, and Marco are questioned by Captain Torelli, which I unfailingly heard as Captain Tortellini in my head.
I think that's Elfie. I think he's Captain Tortellini. I think. Yeah.
Oh, you think? Okay. Captain Torelli in a small, heavily guarded room. Torelli tells the kids they're in big trouble. Something on the wall catches Cassie's eye as Torelli talks. A sign-up sheet for an event at her parents' zoo, the Gardens. It's also an amusement park. Marco asks where the aliens are hidden. and is told that there are no aliens at Zone 91, Popcorn Chris.
God damn it! The captain... The captain asks that the kids write down their names and their parents' numbers on a piece of paper. Torelli will have to call their families. They all gave fake information. Though Cassie's not great at lying, she twembling with fear.
She twembling.
Eddy, you're unhinged. Popcorn. When Popcorn?
Widowily.
Miranda.
Twembling.
Popcorn Miranda.
Oh, me?
Yeah, when?
When the captain leaves to make calls, the kids plan their escape. They'll morph into cockroaches and sneak out of the base. When the captain returns to the room, the kids slip under the door as roaches.
Amazing.
Yeah, this chapter is incredible.
It's really good. They do bother to mention, so like in terms of the surveillance stuff that we were talking about earlier, we don't see any cameras. And they bother to mention that this room they brought them into has no windows. So there's nothing that could even be like a two-way mirror. Nobody is nobody's watching these kids. This is apparently a top secret government facility that everybody knows about. And they're in it, and they're just, they decide to leave them completely alone to call their parents.
Yes. It's actually the principal's office. That is essentially where they are, is they are in the principal's office.
You nailed it. We're just in a different version of school. But these people aren't even as scary as Principal Chapman. Like, they're not
Captain
a part of our
Tortellini?
fight. Chapman Tortellini? That's a good dish for our restaurant. Chapman Tortellini.
I think it's actually just Chapman with a mustache on. Like, I think that's Captain Tortellini.
So Cassie and Rachel keep trying to play the, yes, sir, sorry, sir, we're very, we made a big mistake. And Marco just keeps doubling and tripling down on the I'm a crazy alien nut thing. Mm-hmm. And they're very frustrated with him about it. But then eventually they get to the point where they're putting down fake names, and Marco puts Fox Mulder, so Rachel puts Dana Scully, so Cassie puts Cindy Crawford.
God, what was the last? It was like something Spinner. Skinner? Let me look. X-Files.
Spinner is also a character on Degrassi. Oh, what was you're talking about? Like, it's their
Skinner.
boss, Skinner. Yeah, their boss is Skinner. You're right.
Yeah. So if
the
she
FBI
had known
agent,
the show,
their
she
boss.
could have gone for Walter Skinner.
Yeah, but she says she admits she doesn't really watch X-Files, and she just like sweats on this paper and then writes down Cindy Crawford, and she gets asked
and she
why
puts
she
her
doesn't
phone
know
number
her own
as
name.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, 8 numbers.
Poor Cassie, she can't keep up with jokesters Rachel and Marco.
Yeah.
She's a real one. She's too good for this world.
Do you think Marco would have behaved better if Jake was there?
No. He'd behave
And is there
worse.
any indication that Marco's actually playing 4D chess right now?
Yeah.
It kind of feels like he might be. It's like the crazier they go on it. Like, what's your inkling on that, Eddy? What's your 4D chess?
I
match?
did not think so as I read, but I feel like the books give Marco credit in a chapter or so that he is in fact, he has a plan.
They want to be written off as crazies.
Yeah, so that they're taken less seriously as a threat, basically, by the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Also,
Rachel tries to go ahead.
No, we have to start to contend with the fact here that they have now been spotted. They have reason to believe that Zone 91 is being targeted by the Yeerks for some reason. They're disguising themselves as horses and passing through Zone 91. That's why we're here.
They haven't seen that yet.
But there's enough to make
But
that
they think
connection,
that's what's
like
going
a loose
on.
connection. They've now been spotted by a high-ranking person here who probably could be targeted by the Yeerks, and without shoes,
And
like,
later
what are they
those
doing
memories.
there? They have a witness. This is our idiot teenagers with a death wish. Like, we are.
You're totally right. This is incredibly high stakes. This is the biggest fuck up since
The what?
Jennifer McCall.
Jennifer Jason
Jonathan
Lee.
got
Jason,
yeerked
Jennifer
on live
McCall.
television.
What the hell was his
Or
name?
got un-yeerked on live
Jeremy
television.
Jason McCall.
Jeremy Jason McCall.
right.
You got the first and last name right. You just made his middle name Jennifer. It's fine.
Jennifer
I
Jason
think.
Lee. Yes. It's Noah Baumbach's ex-wife. She's an actor.
Point is,
We morph cockroaches.
well, yeah, and we have to escape. But the flip it, like the thing that really has to be hit here, because we hit it earlier, is just that this goes into straight up Looney Tunes. Like, this goes into cartoon mode. After having guns cocked and pointed at us, when the stakes really felt like, you know, like psyops or whatever you want to go, like Desert Storm level scary, awful militariness. Now we're in a military base and it turns into like Roswell That Ends Well, the Futurama episode. Like, it's like everything is... Yeah, exactly. Like everything is just like jokey incompetence, but hierarchy and men being weird. And like, you know, you can almost like imagine the cartoon version of this Captain Torelli.
I do think a little bit of what's happening, as silly as this book is, I also feel like it's a little bit the book's answering a question that could have been asked so far, like, why hasn't the military caught on to the Yeerks yet? And this book kind of presents an answer that they're utterly incompetent. Like,
incompetent.
Yeah. It's a little bit like that 9/11 episode of South Park where the U.S. government wants everyone to think that they did 9/11 because then everyone will think they're a lot more competent than they are. Like, I feel like...
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, it's, absolutely.
They're trying to take credit, basically. But that's kind of what...
It is interesting. Like, you're right. Like, is it K.A. and Michael Grant? You know, well, you know, and they're afraid to come on our show and answer the tough questions. But is it them poking fun at the establishment? Which, for books as mysterious and irreverent as these, I mean, these books put the idea of not trusting authority figures into your head.
Yeah.
Inherently.
There's no grown-ups to depend on.
No,
it's
never.
not Rugrats.
Even the Hork-Bajir adults that we met last book have to be rescued by children.
True.
Crazy Helen.
With Ellimist intervention.
I think we can trust Crazy Helen, though. She could be another Animorph.
I think we can trust Crazy Helen.
She's so good.
Honorary Animorph Crazy Helen.
She gave us Stream vibes, personally, I think so. Like,
So as they morph cockroaches, they do hear them coming back. They hear that Captain Torelli has realized that one of them gave them the phone number to a Pizza Hut, and they're coming back to get him. Marco yells,
like, it's like you can hear him huffing and puffing in the hallway.
Yeah.
I don't want any pizza.
Again?
And they motor their way out of there.
Miranda, I do want to...
And then they realize...
your note that they play a game of, like, what's the grossest morph we can do?
Oh, yeah, they play a game of, like, which morph is grossest, because they're like, we do flies, and then it's like, we don't do flies, and it's like, do they suggest ants? Yeah, it's like ant, and it's like, no, we're not doing ants. Cockroaches, and Rachel's like, okay, I'll do cockroach. She changes her mind mid-morph and thinks that maybe cockroaches are grosser than flies, but they've already
we get a good morph
so
detail that their bones turn to mush. Like, I do think we're back this book with good morph details.
And we've seeded the garden. We have, like, that one, like, just jutting
We saw
out.
the flyer for the gardens.
Yeah.
Lots of names signed up underneath it. Like, maybe they're going to the gardens. Like, it's like some sort of family trip. They also, next to it, she sees two other signs. One says, security is our business. And another one says to tolerate, quote, 0 defects.
It is wild.
Which is just weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I think the fact that that's all we get for where this book will end, like, it's a weird kind of confidence for, like, a really nonsensical book that all they feel like, well, just mention that there's a gathering happening at the gardens. Like, I feel like...
See a flyer,
and that's it. And it's like, that's where this ends. It actually, I feel like it happens in, like... Allegedly. 10 pages. I feel like the ending of this book happened so quickly.
I genuinely believed the book was over and then looked down and saw I was at 85%.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
it's a crazy book. Yeah.
Chapter 10.
Yep.
Cassie, Marco, and Rachel manage to escape the building as cockroaches, dodging human feet as they dart along. Once outside, Cassie summons Tobias to come pick the three of them up. Hurry, she tells him. The concrete is burning hot out in the sun. Sorry. The concrete is burning out hot in the sun. Tobias asks Popcorn Eddy
them to clump together to make it easier for him to fetch them and warns them, ominously, to watch out for the vehicles. Tobias does, Popcorn Miranda,
manage to grab his three friends, but he quickly loses his grip on Cassie. She falls, hits the ground. Cassie is stuck on her back. She wiggles and wiggles, but it's no use. Hurry, Tobias calls out. Something is coming straight at Cassie, but she can't right her little cockroach body, and Tobias can't make it to her in time. At the last second, she realizes what's coming towards her. Popcorn Chris.
Popcorn Eddy.
Tank.
Yeah, dude, what a chapter. And I have literally no fucking thing to say about this chapter. Like,
It's really good.
It's really good. It's really fun, but it feels like a more like inconsequential version of the first cockroach escape they did when Lord Visser was giving that PowerPoint.
As he's known to us.
Yeah, I missed
The members
Lord.
of the Morphing Committee, which I would like to have a quick little meeting. I know we've been discussing whether Tobias...
What's up? I call this meeting to order.
Whether Tobias should be allowed to keep his morphing powers. I know we discussed earlier that he doesn't have...
We said we were taking him back.
We thought if we held them from him for a while, he would really appreciate what we had given him. Doesn't really feel like he appreciates them. And now I think we actually could say it's a distraction to him doing his work because...
Yeah, I think until the school year ends, he can't have them back.
Yeah, I agree, because he needs to be picking up these roaches. At first, I was terribly afraid that you were going to put forth a motion that he morph a tank. I was really worried. And I was like, I don't know.
I can find that anime.
I think I would have given him some points, actually, if he had, but he hasn't demonstrated that he can morph a tank.
Frankly, he doesn't even seem interested.
And
I moved on.
And I should have mentioned this earlier, but I also want to bring in as evidence against him having the responsibility of morphing powers that we said, Tobias, you can have your morphing powers back if you can chill as a human. Just act like a human. No flapping of the wings. You don't have wings anymore when you're human. But then what does he go and do? He acts suspicious in the food court.
He does. He does. I would like to table this until further evidence has come along, but I hear all of that, and I think we have it all in the minutes. I think our scribe, Elfie.
Well, as you know, every motion needs a first reading, and then we'll read it. It'll get its second reading at the next meeting, and we can have a vote on it then.
Absolutely. Robert's rules.
Meeting
all
adjourned.
Right. Meeting adjourned. Very good.
It is very cute that they decide that the way to find outside is to go to the place that their roach brain is most afraid of because it doesn't like light. And it's like, how do we tell light from daylight? And it's like, whatever your roach brain hates more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which actually has a weird parallel to the haunted house. Yeah.
It's true.
But
Allegedly.
not a strong one. Allegedly.
Also, I do want to talk a little bit about the phrase, there's a column coming your way. And he continues to refer to it as a column.
It's Jamie Cullum. It's a Cullum. Jamie Cullum was a jazz musician in the early aughts.
Because he says again, it's that column, Cassie. It's coming right at you. And she says, column of what? Troops? Soldiers? And when, is this just like a military term? Is this a term for formations in the military? I've never heard a column of tanks.
Is this a hint? If that's what Tobias means, is it a hint that he has some kind of, maybe the reason he moved around so much, or he has a military background? Yeah.
Background, yeah. I was thinking, are the tanks stacked on top of each other?
I think just like in Civilization 4, when you used to be able to stack units on a single tile. I think that's what we're talking about
So it's
here.
not
a column of tanks.
I'm not saying that Cassie is about to be crushed by a tank, because that would be crazy.
I don't think the chapter gave that impression.
If that were to happen, would that mean that maybe it's not just one tank, but many tanks stacked vertically?
Yes.
Many tanks.
It would, and that's why it's all the less likely that it happened. And with that, Miranda Popcorn Chapter 11.
Cassie gets smooshed.
Oh, shit.
By what?
Sort of. She's badly injured, but seemingly not in pain as she circles around the tread of the tank. She has to hurry or she'll get crushed a second time, and she doesn't think she'll survive that. She tests her left wing. Nothing. Right wing. Success! She manages to turn herself upright and gets far enough away that Tobias can retrieve her. Tobias flies Cassie, Marco, and Popcorn Chris.
Outside of Zone 91.
Rachel
they
and Rachel.
And Rachel, outside of Zone 91, they demorph in the drylands. Rachel asks Margot why he provoked Torelli with his jokes, and he says it was intentional. Now Torelli thinks they're wackos. He takes them less seriously as a threat. Cassie is feeling defeated in that her roach feet have been removed. They learn nothing about why the Yeerks are infesting horses. Is it even a big problem? Really? Tobias hears Popcorn Eddy.
Tobias hears something.
Something.
A bunch of horses are approaching. At first, they dismiss the horses, but then they notice something strange. When one of the horses starts Popcorn Miranda
Pooping! The other horses seem to laugh. Then something even stranger happens. The horse that was pooping retreats for privacy. Those aren't normal horses, Cassie remarks.
Laughing fucking horses. This just got so Looney Tunes. Like, it just got so over the top.
the Yeerks are laughing
Like, it's
at
like-
pooping.
In horses, they're making horses laugh.
It's so funny.
And also, I thought
like-
I was crazy as I typed this summary. I was like, there's no way they made the embarrassed pooping horse a girl horse. And they did. I was like, it must be it.
They
and
did.
It's definitely.
Nope, it's a mare,
yeah.
yeah. And she can tell from this far away.
Yes,
But
exactly. How did they identify? They checked.
I don't know. I guess my bigger question is like this whole book. So like we had the Skrit-Na, right? And we had the Taxxons. The Taxxons who will stop and eat dead bodies anywhere. The Hork-Bajir who will cut themselves open and just bleed in public. The Skrit-Na who will stop on a dime and cocoon. Mm-hmm. But you're
In front
expecting
of God and everyone.
everyone. But you're expecting me to believe that there's a modesty culture around pooping in every alien species.
Especially when, like, in a recent book, they talked about how they just dumped all their shit in their spaceports just below the ships. Like, it's...
I
don't
would
know.
like to point out.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Oh, in
with that.
Andalite
mentioned
Chronicles,
the poop,
below the
yeah.
ships, they mentioned the poop. These books
Which
are just
ship?
obsessed on the Taxxon home planet.
On the Taxxon home. That's right. I'm sorry. I do remember that.
Can I point out? I know you two don't mean to disrespect the Yeerks, but they are a proud people who their government, the Council of 13, they have chalices that they sit in, and they would
It's true. And they
they
poop
would
in those
climb down
chalices.
from the chalice and go off to a decent area to poop.
They
Not
would
to
never do
mention
that.
the
They're
whole-
too worried of being assassinated. They don't even know which one of them is the emperor.
Yeah, exactly. And if they leave to poop, they might just get killed.
Exactly.
And then they're a council of
But also,
12.
Go
like,
to
that
take a
made me-
number 2 and you get 86th instead.
But that made me think of it even more. I'm like, you're telling me that not only the Yeerks, but I guess every controller's species
They use restrooms.
has this? Or is it just them? Is it that the Yeerks have restrooms, and so when they infest bodies that don't do that, then they get embarrassed about it? But the Yeerks are slug-like, and don't slugs just kind of like ooze their waste? Also, they absorb Kandrona rays. What waste do they produce? Is poop just universally funny because it's poop? Like, is it not that the Yeerks themselves poop? Is that why it's shameful?
I mean,
Yeerks
these are the
don't-
perennial questions.
There is a plot important moment later in this book. I think I figured it out. There's a plot important moment later in this book where two humans who at the time may or may not be controllers peek
Pooping?
over
Oh,
the
controllers.
top of a stall. But this modesty tells us that there is no way that those are your human beings. They're not controllers because controllers would never peek over the top of a stall.
Interesting.
They're a modest people.
I cannot wait to get to that moment.
Sorry, allegedly.
Now all
Allegedly.
All I can think about now, and this is extremely disturbing to me, is as a Yeerk person, it never occurred to me that my Yeerk inside my brain is holding it for 3 whole days until it can get back to the Kandrona, right? The Yeerk pool and the Kandrona. Like, I feel so bad for
Chris,
the little guy up
Chris,
there.
I'm
like,
so sorry, but your brain is actually very private.
Is that what earwax is?
Yeah,
my
your gets
God.
pooping.
Oh my God.
That's why you have such
That's
problems
why I have
with
such
earwax.
bad earwax issues. Oh my God.
You have had some pretty big plugs come out.
I have plugs from slugs.
That's why
my
your
God.
people always, the way you can identify them is they bring with them their neti pot. Wait, that's not for your ear, is it? That's
You
That's
don't
for
use
your
that in
nose.
your ears. You use that in your
They
nose.
bring their what
yes,
are
that's what I
candles
mean.
You're, yeah.
Well, sometimes
They
it
have
gets
a
in your
name.
nose.
I don't know
Okay.
what they're
In my
called,
brief
yeah.
time where I was yerked, I learned that it sometimes boogers.
Well, if you use your neti pot just wrong, it will come out your ear.
I thought you were gonna say that like your people are always saying, I'm sorry, what was your name again? I couldn't quite hear over the person
Wait,
shouting.
didn't Chapman in the show? Didn't they know he was yerked because he kept picking at his ear?
Oh yeah, but that was they did. Yeah.
No, he
Well,
itched his leg. Sorry.
As I recall, let me be clear. As I recall, he scratches his leg with his shoes in a particular way, and then Jake sees him do that, looks up at him, and then I believe he scratches his ear
Just to spell
in
it
case
out.
you weren't sure.
Oh my God. I want to start next episode talking about this scene again.
Yeah, for sure.
okay.
Like we will rejoin here.
Yeah.
That's it, Anna. Cool kids.
Yeah.
That's all we've got time for today.
Gotta pause. Yeah.
It's 9:49.
cycle?
The latest
You thought-
we ever go. 9:49.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Never gone later than 9:40.
I don't want to know what happened.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon!